Totally. Well, there's a larger conversation, and this is, I think, a very 2020s thing, is like that conversation about like I'm cool, this is underground, but it's not, is the same conversation with like, Republicans being like, we are so fucking like oppressed and downtrodden. It's like, you won everything, which is the same conversation that like Marvel nerds had, where it's like, nobody respects us. Nobody would. It's like, you've gotten Academy Award nominations. You've won all the box offices. You reframe Hollywood for your desires. So it's like, these are all the same conversation in a way.
Yeah.
And like, maybe I'll write about this weekend, who knows, but like, this is something that like, I don't know, like we need to like reorient the center. Like we have like cultural body dysmorphia. It's like, no, like that is the mainstream. What?
There
like,
we go.
What are we talking about?
Cultural body dysmorphia. Interesting. $39. Kyle, it's hip replacement episode number 39.
We did it. We're almost 40.
Oh, thank goodness. Again. It's funny. My 39th, I was reminded of this. We had a holiday party over the weekend, and I was reminded because a woman who had been my assistant when I was 39 came to the party, and I was reminded she gave me a birthday cake for my 39th birthday. It had a picture of me with my arm around Kim Kardashian at Cannes Lions.
Wow.
Which was very funny. And she had taken the photo, which is a terrible photo taken by one of Kim's security guards on my phone, and got it printed on a cake. So it was this photorealistic Ben and Kim Kardashian cake for my 39th
Holy
birthday.
Shit.
Yeah.
Okay. So this was technically, because you turned 50 this year. So this is like 2014,
2014. Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah.
That's like, look, hey, okay, camera technology was better on phones by then. I was like, was this like a BlackBerry? No. But then also on top of it, like, photo cakes at that point were pretty new, pretty cutting edge. So that's like, hey.
It is true. It was, we talked about it, the contrast between that and my 40th birthday party, which this woman also helped to organize, where I was really into oysters at the time, like shucking oysters. And she got 40 oysters from the seafood place around the corner, but she sent an Orthodox Jewish kid, like heavily Orthodox Jewish kid, who doesn't eat shellfish. And so he didn't know what he was doing.
Oh,
so he came back
God.
with a clam knife, and I had to open 40 oysters with the clam knife, which was not fun for anybody.
Dangerous.
All right. Well, anyway, we're boring the hell out of our guests, so I'm going to stop now with that nonsense.
I like oyster shucking stories.
Okay, good. I've got tons
They're
of
a
them.
niche genre, but they're all good stories.
I suppose. Well, Kyle, who are we here with today?
So we are here with Cami Fateh, who is a journalist and writer, but she's also the associate editor at Feed Me or she has a nightlife column as well. Maybe we call her nightlife editor as well.
The nightlife correspondent. Yeah, exactly.
Yes. Welcome, Cami. Super excited to have you.
Thank you. Thank you so much for inviting me on. I was just thinking about how this is my first podcast that I've ever been on.
Amazing.
You join a very illustrious list of first-time guests or first podcast guests on Hip Replacement. Cami, I have to say, you also are you meet the brief for this show not only because you are heavily engaged in culture and operating through a relevant media outlet, but also because you're actually Gen Z, right? Sometimes we just have Gen Z experts, but you're in your early mid-20s, right?
Yeah.
I'm 23, yeah.
Okay.
Wow, I'm okay. I was going to say, we never ask a lady her age, but when she's 23,
Thank
maybe.
you for telling us.
Yeah, exactly. How does one come to have a nightlife correspondent role? I think this will be one big question on the part of our listeners.
Yeah, I mean, people ask me this a lot, and I've only been doing it since August, and I think I've only filed a few times, but what happened was I'd been reading Feed Me for a really long time since, I think I'm one of the few people who's grandfathered into the $30 a year subscription, and now the Feed Me subscription is $80 a year.
I was going to say I'm grandfathered in at 50, I think, but definitely not
Holy
30.
Shit, yeah.
Definitely not 30.
Yeah, no, I was reading it like my senior year of college and loving it, and kind of I felt like I knew I wanted to move to New York, and a lot of my friends, I mean, did you guys both go to Georgetown or one of you?
No, only I did.
You went to Georgetown.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yes.
Yeah.
I mean, I'm sure you're familiar with like the pipeline, which
There
is
is a huge pipeline.
Everybody moves. They'll move to New York before they even find a job, and then they'll figure it out here.
Yeah.
And I felt like I was already sort of in New York by reading Emily's newsletter, and I was still in DC, but getting this slice of life of New York City that I had no reason for knowing anything about it yet. And then so I really like grew to love the newsletter. And then when I was at Columbia Journalism School last year, I was pitching to a variety of outlets. And then there were some things that like I felt like I would see, I envisioned more as something that one would read and feed me than like in a legacy news outlet. And so I pitched to her on a whim. The story that I wrote did well, I think. And then so I pitched again. And then I realized that both of those stories were kind of like at the intersection of like socializing and like a political idea. Like I found it easier to just show up somewhere and then describe a scene because I was there. And like I also am super ADHD. I don't like spending all day long on Zoom calls interviewing people. And the easiest way for me, I don't want to give away all of the tricks of the trade, but like the easiest thing for me is just to show up somewhere and take notes about what I see rather than transcribing interviews with a bunch of sources.
Go to the source. Yeah.
Exactly. Yeah. I've been workshopping this idea kind of all summer thinking, okay, there's a real gap in nightlife reporting. This used to be a really robust industry in and of itself where like there were tons of party reporters and it was always like some 21, 22, 23-year-old kid who was just like a totem pole basically at all of these parties recording everything that they saw. And now we don't really get that anymore, but there are actually more parties than ever because there's more brands than ever and everyone's throwing so many parties, but no one's really covering it.
Yeah.
It's okay. So I have to jump in with an impression. I am pleasantly surprised, but also just surprised that you went to J school and have, because I tend to think of Feed Me as being emblematic of a kind of pipeline to modern journalism that would go around some of the more structural things and instead would be driven by kind of entrepreneurial outreach, just like what you just described. So that makes you a kind of an interesting hybrid as far as I'm concerned, which is cool. But I find it surprising.
I mean, but very few of my J school peers have jobs right now.
Yeah.
You know,
well,
like and I think, I mean, we do a lot more reporting than one would expect. And I think it's like, Anna also went to J school. Emily has just like a really great news sense in the way that she's constantly consuming, and she's always asking people questions. Like she's always on her phone texting people things that like wouldn't even occur to me. And I think like we're kind of at a good intersection of like there's a creativity sort of inflection point between like having too much traditional news training and not enough, and I feel like we're here.
Yeah, well, it's funny, Kyle. I'm curious on your thoughts on this too. But it strikes me that one of the big things that I think held back a generation of journalists, or has held back a generation of journalists that I was on the business side of. Right, to be clear, Cami, I was never. Actually, that's not true. I used to write record reviews and, that sort of thing. Use that to get into parties. That's how I met my wife, as a matter of fact, was like claiming to cover nightlife.
Okay, that's a big thing.
Interest in the subject.
That's not a little thing.
No way.
That's a big.
No, you're right. But in any case, I could never claim it. I would never want to claim it. But what I think held a lot of the people who were capital J journalists that I worked with back was this notion of orthodoxy about what you are
Right.
allowed to do and what you're not allowed to do. And with Syracuse launching the creator education thing through Newhouse last year or this year, exactly what you're talking about, finding the inflection point between what is marketable and what is has integrity is not only a crucial skill, but is really it is, I think, coming to a little bit of an inflection point. So Kyle, I mean, I don't know, you sit solidly in the cohort of people that I would describe as being held back by some of that orthodoxy. I don't mean you particularly, but I mean like
no, totally.
some of your peers.
No, that's a funny way of putting it, but you're right. Yeah. But I think that the something that you said, Cami, that like really sort of like, or just the idea of what you're able to, or what you've been able to do, like you really represent something that, like, you know, having as an adult, you know, through grad school and in various other fellowships and things I've done, interact with higher education, specifically writing programs and journalism programs, you are doing the thing that they dream of doing. And like, it's sort of separate from the school itself, honestly, because you did it yourself. And that is the gumption of the student who is sort of like the tail wagging the dog, however you want to say it, is that like, you did the thing that they're going to take credit for, when it was you understanding the landscape better than anybody in that institution probably understand. And your peers, they probably get it too, but like, that is, it's like, it's so funny because like that happens all the time, where a university or some larger institution will sort of take credit for somebody's gumption just because they were sort of like there. And like, I get it, but like, that was the thing that sort of like resonated with me, because like, I've seen this story many times, and it's like, okay, I don't think you, professor who hasn't pitched a story in 20 years, can take credit for that. I'm making that up, but like, that oftentimes can happen.
I think that's the real problem with journalism school, is a lot of the professors there are not working journalists.
Yeah. Sure.
And it's like, I did get a lot of really valuable skills from it. Like I'm talking about skills like picking up the phone and emailing people and asking questions, or like knocking on doors. Those are a lot of things that people who are like, I want to be a writer, like they're not doing. You know?
Yes.
But I think also it's like, for example, I was in an audio class. So I guess I do actually have some podcasting experience. I took an audio class last year.
We're still claiming credit.
No. It was nothing like this. It was nothing like this. We would record like radio segments. Like we would record segments for radio, like a 2-minute story. And it's like that format is it's almost like archaic now.
Totally.
You know what I mean? And it just like, I'm like, I don't listen to the radio. I'm sure like there's some cool radio, like NTS radio is really cool, but like how many people are actually listening?
There's not like a radio show like that, nor is there like, I would love if there was like a hip journalist doing an NTS show. No, like the point of it, to that point is like, that's a reimagining of the radio that doesn't have everything. It's like, but anyway, all that, exactly. That really represents that sort of gap. And I'm sure somebody in the class and people have used that for podcasting, but like to get a job in radio now, like when, like I have peers who have worked in radio and they're journalists and radio journalists as well. And like, they now work in podcast, or they're doing sort of like new media producing. Like that sort of, those institutions are now few and far between for no other reason than like the technology has changed, and like people are getting that sort of media in different ways. And that is a really good example of that gap, which is what it is.
Well, okay, so now, well, let's get into this, the meat of the conversation then, which is the generational discourse. I do want to do one little like contemporaneous time check, so that listeners, when they go back to this episode in the future, as for all its wisdom, you know, we'll have a way to mark it. I received a package in the mail over the weekend. I don't know why, but I received the Timothy Chalamet, Marty Supreme Wheaties. I don't know whether this is, I'm a AAA 24 subscriber, and so maybe they sent it to me like as a holiday gift or something, or maybe somebody bought it and it just didn't come with a card. But in any case, it made me want to ask the two of you, you know, at the bleeding edge of the zeitgeist, are we sick of Marty Supreme yet, or are we still okay until the film comes out and then we will never speak of it again?
I'm not sick of it yet.
Okay, good.
I'm not sick of it yet because I'm just like I am very curious. I think this whole whatever they're doing feels a little bit opaque to me. So there's something about it that makes me want to learn more.
It's still mysterious enough. Okay, good.
Yes, exactly. By comparison, the Wicked press tour, I'm like, get away from me. I don't want to see it. I don't want to be anywhere near it. But because they're not leaving anything to the imagination.
Yeah.
But truthfully. This one, I don't know. I need to watch the movie.
Okay, I'm edging close to overexposure, but I do still want to see the film. Go ahead, Kyle. What are you?
I am at the other. Ben, you're in the middle. I'm the.
Oh right, you wrote the whole column about how you're not. Oh my God, you're on record.
This pushed me over the edge to be like, I don't like Timothée Chalamet. I think all of this is hype. All of this is just you are just making shit that people are gonna buy and it's gonna be in a landfill and whatever. And the thing about that kills me. Look, I get it. A lot of it is really clever and good. It is a good thing. I think to that point, the flip side of Wicked, you're right. This is a different way to approach it in a way that is, we could call it authentic with quotes, because the thing that just that kills me about it all is that it's all packaged in counterculture and being indie and all this stuff when it is not. When it is this is a multi-million-dollar enterprise from an institution now that is valued at billions of dollars, and tapping to things we come on, this is not indie, and this is there is this idea which is kind of amazing, but it drives me crazy. And I think the first signal of this was Brat, probably even a little bit before that, is this idea of counterculture and indie, underground, whatever you want to call it, still being that when it is now mainstream. And they don't square. And I'm sorry, I don't think they square. And Charlie XX and write about cool. It only furthers the point, I think, is that yeah.
Sure.
That's my take.
Sure.
That's my thought.
No, it was interesting. Former hip replacement guest, oh God, this is it, Cami. This is you're destined to
39 guests. Remembering, trying to go through the deck.
No longer remembering who was on the show. God damn it, this is ridiculous. James Watley, thank you.
Yes,
internet. James Watley just wrote a had a pull quote from Charlie's newsletter, which was to the effect of the point at which things stop becoming cool is the point at which they are the effort is exposed, or something to that effect. And we're starting to get to the place now where the effort's starting to come to the surface in the way that it has with Wicked.
Totally. Well, there's a larger conversation, and this is, I think, a very 2020s thing, is that conversation about I'm cool, this is underground, but it's not, is the same conversation with Republicans being we are so fucking oppressed and downtrodden. It's you won everything, which is the same conversation that Marvel nerds had, where it's nobody respects us, nobody would. It was you've gotten Academy Award nominations, you've won all the box offices, you reframe Hollywood for your desires. So it's these are all the same conversation in a way.
Yeah.
And maybe I'll write about this weekend, who knows, but this is something that I don't know, we need to reorient the center. We have cultural body dysmorphia. It's no, that is the mainstream. What?
There we go.
What are we
cultural
talking about?
Body dysmorphia. Interesting.
I'm writing that down.
So I want to, Cami, I'm interested in your very specific reflection on the assertion of that sort of, sore winners kind of discourse, because one of the tweets that you sent us as a reference for this conversation was about a confluence of holiday parties last week. Two in particular were ones where the Odd Lots 10th anniversary reception and the Free Press holiday party ran up against each other. And you mentioned having gone to both of them. This is a real interesting, both slice of modern media, but then also the you know, I am interested to know where you see us being in the discourse based on what you saw in those parties. Were they fun? Were they dumb? Were they filled with cool people?
Yeah.
Did you learn
Were
anything?
good people watching?
Yeah. I
So
think
tell us.
so I don't want to completely, this is coming out what, next week, right?
This conversation?
Yeah.
No, it's coming out tomorrow, Monday or Tuesday, December 16th.
Okay, I don't want to
don't spill
completely
anything.
blow my entire column.
Don't.
But
Don't.
Please
Yeah.
don't.
I'm not going to completely blow my entire column, but I would say, the funny thing about New York is, like, you would expect that, like, the entire media industry is, like, completely alive and well by, like, looking at a slice of New Yorkers' calendars, because there are so many parties, and there are everyone has a newsletter, and then they're doing a party they're throwing a party to launch their newsletter. Like, now I'm even seeing people are having parties to launch to announce this new season of their podcast before the season has even come out. You know what I mean?
Shout out Alyssa Vingan.
I didn't know that she did that, but like I know that Avery Trufelman, is that how you say her name?
Yeah.
She had a party
I talked to Avery last week.
Yeah. Okay, yeah. She had a party for the new season of her podcast, and, like, I think that's fun, because I do think that we should be hanging out more, and, like, I think that it's a really good idea, but it's like, you would think that the health of the media ecosystem is a lot better than it actually probably is by looking at this sort of hyper-local set of parties.
Right. I think
Yeah.
Well, let me just get your take on this, because I'm developing. I'm of the opinion and developing this thesis around the idea that in 2026 and probably for the next 18 months, 2 years, we're going to see a lot of parties that are more available to the general population, meaning
really,
like subscribers writ large, or open invitation, that sort of thing, because the three-way pressure of the platforms throttling reach from influencers means that you can't get giant reach through small numbers of people the way that you could effectively a few years ago as marketers. The general notion of post-pandemic Gen Z having a real desire and a hunger to socialize IRL coming back, and then the affordability crisis coming together in a way that there is a huge appetite for, IRL people getting together in real life. There is a real desire to celebrate and to, or just generally to party, but there's no money to do it, and so brands have to be the underwriters to do that. And it is going to be similar to the boom era of 99, 2000, 2001, prior to the .com crash, where it was three parties. When I came first to New York, there were 3 parties a night, every night, for boo.com or van.com or whatever it was, right? And we're going to go through a similar sort of thing, except it's well, anyway, that's my thesis, Cami, and I'm interested to hear both of your takes on that.
Yeah, I mean, I agree. I think that's a really good way of putting it, is that brands are the underwriters of this kind of this new scene. And I wrote something kind of about that, kind of similar, tangentially related to that, recently, where I tried to go to a bunch of brand events over the course of a few days. And yeah, something I've noticed is at a lot of these things, you'll run into the same people over and over again, and it's I'm there to cover it or for work, but then I'm wondering, not all of these people necessarily need to be there. I guess it is their job for some of these people to be seen at events, or that they feel I don't know, for their career progression they need to be there to network. But I am curious about some of these people, and whether they have friends outside of, you know what I mean? And I think I really think the answer is that some of these people have now set up their lives to be that their work friends or their media industry PR and media PR influencer industry friends are their real friends. And I think like I'm even finding that a little bit because it's like I only see my real friends probably Friday late night and Saturday, sometimes Saturday during the day, but less often than I used to.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm finding it easier to hang out with people who work in a similar industry or like
Right.
will be going to a similar party as me because then we can show up together, you know?
Yeah. Well, I mean, Kyle, that was not a. I was going to say my wife and I got together at one of those shows that I got into for free because I was claiming to cover it, right? But she and I also got together because we both worked in the music business and we could understand each other's schedules. It was not a dissimilar thing for you and Bobby, right?
The LA equivalent is we lived 2 blocks away from each other, and that made life very easy because you live any further than that in LA, you see each other once a week. We saw each other like every day because of that. So a little bit different. But I do think like something that like in this conversation, and Cami, I know you recently wrote or maybe not recently, but you wrote a story about this, is I think that there is that idea of people showing up to the same parties and just sort of like being there. That's like an age-old thing, or at least like that's like since I've been an adult, like millennials, that happened too. Like the thing that happens again and again and like still happens to this day is like if you work in the art scene or you write about art or whatever, and there was a time period I was doing that a lot, so I was going to a lot of openings and I was going to a lot of art parties, and there's a whole economy within that scene of people just go there to get fucking wasted for free off of the art whatever. And that's true of any industry. That is true of all these people. But like those are similar. They're like a step below the people who just go there and sort of are there. Which is all to say, like, to the thing that you wrote about is like they're like party hosting, there is an art to being a party guest. And I don't think a lot of people really understand how to make it work. And that's a different skill set from like meeting somebody at a bar, which is a skill set that I don't really have. But like at a party, like that is like, it's a true skill set. You have to know how to use that to a way. Like you just showing up and standing there doesn't mean shit. Like you are an NPC. Like you have to like sort of engage, like talk to the gallerist, talk to the artist, introduce yourself to somebody. Like, especially if you're a journalist, you have to do that where it's like, you know, oh, who can I talk to get more information about this? And so you can sort of write about it. Otherwise, if you're just there to be there, like you're just going to blend in and become the back of a head in a cobra snake photo. But like in order to be
feeling seen.
Yeah. In order to to actually be seen, like you have to participate in the party. Whether that means like maybe getting drunk enough and doing like breakdancing, sure, that's one way. But the other way is like you have to actually engage with the mission of the party sometimes. And people don't do that.
So Cami, that and Mark is Mark the Cobra Snake is a good example of this, because Mark is interesting. Mark just wants to take pictures of people, interesting looking people, or people making interesting gestures or whatever it is. Doesn't matter, you know, how important or famous you are. He shoots lots of famous people, but he also shoots lots of just kids. He represents a kind of an egalitarian, I think, approach to socializing and nightlife, and the fact that his capture has come back over the last couple of years, I think, is indicative of the interest in that in nightlife spaces. What I'm curious about, and I don't want you to give away anything that's going in the column, which people should look at Feed Me tomorrow, Tuesday or Wednesday, is Wednesday, the 17th of December, is does the Free Press Party feel like egalitarian and you know, for a libertarian publication you would think maybe it would be like an egalitarian feeling thing, but also it's, you know, conservative coded, so maybe it's not. I just wonder what
you know what maybe it was. I have to say the alcohol was flowing. They had 3 different bars, which is something that people as hosts forget is really important. Is like people need people need to be able to access alcohol. I went to a party last week where they had an opera singing stripper, but only 2 bartenders for 200 people. And it was like, no one wants to watch the opera singing stripper if they're sober.
Right. Yeah.
It's like, that's not fun. And so I think that they did a really good job with the setup of that. And I think that like people were like dancing, and people were drinking. I saw two couples making out, which is something I feel like you don't really normally see at a lot of media parties these days.
Wow.
And I think, say what you want about Barry and about the free press, and there's a lot of things, but like
there are.
But I think that she's created like this kind of group of young people who are really excited to be in the in the mix. Yeah.
Right.
So let me ask you, let's ask the generational question then a little bit there. When you say they've cultivated, the Free Press has cultivated this group of young people, are those like actual young people, like your contemporaries?
Yeah.
Or are they really, I mean, this is like Gen Z, people in their 20s, that kind of thing. Wow.
Yeah, there's a lot of people my age who work there.
Do you think, because like that all makes sense. However, I also know, and like this is a Georgetown thing, so maybe you will have had a finger in this, is like there are certain people who are like piranhas in the sense that they can smell that blood of an industry or where money is, and they go to it, regardless of maybe their politics or whatever. And like, to me, like, I would be curious, like, is the free press culture actually that, or is it people who can like taste that money and are there sort of like, you know what I mean? You know what I'm saying? Because like, yeah, there's like a bit of that. Like, I'd be curious because it's to get the CBS money. Like, it's like it is a hot ticket if you're looking at it objectively, divorced from politics.
Yeah.
Like, there is that element.
I think that. No, I see what you're saying. I think a lot, like the crowd of people who are close to my age, maybe they're like a couple of years older than me, who joined, they probably started working there like 2 years ago.
Okay. Okay.
So like this is long before the CBS acquisition was even on the horizon. And I think that like there's a lot of kids who maybe felt like, I don't know, alienated by wokeness, or like, there's other reasons for why they wanted to do that, or the idea was just that they wanted to be in an upstart media publication. And it's a lot more exciting to be somewhere that's new and on the up than kind of a dying dinosaur.
Absolutely.
So, I mean, I'm not sure.
That's also interesting, Kyle, and it contrasts a little bit with the stories about the DoorDash lifestyle, this tweet thread that I circulated, and then also the Business Insider story about millennials loving to complain about all of the ways in which they're disadvantaged despite being, better off than their parents. But the reason I bring it up is I'm sort of curious, Cami, do you think that those people who tapped into the free press at the moment that you're describing got into it because they saw the trajectory, or was it just the thing in front of them? Because the thing that this DoorDash lifestyle tweet asserts is that for young people, Gen Z in particular, life is not a series of it is not this kind of accretive process that happens over time and is understood to be this sort of long-term build. It's a series of micro decisions. In the words of the tweet, $30 now, $0 tomorrow, 50% on $50 on Friday, 15 in crypto, 17 in Cash App for someone they did homework for. Like, in other words, it's a series of little decisions. And I understand how the person making that argument could make it. I also worry a lot about the lack of, point of view on trajectory. So I was curious to hear you talk about the trajectory a little bit. Do you feel like they saw it as like, this is a rocket ship I'm getting on?
Like maybe to some degree, but I think the latter is probably true, that it was just the thing in front of them. I mean, for people my age who want to work in media, we don't have a lot of choice. Like, I think even like within my graduating class at CJR, like our class president went to go work somewhere I've never heard of. One of my friends who desperately wanted to stay and work at like a big network here in New York, the only job that she could find was in Dubai. So she packed up her bags and just moved to Dubai. And then one of my friends is still babysitting and writing a Substack looking for a job. And then my other friend has like an extended internship writing about drug abuse in New York for not she was like a fashion girl who wanted to write about fashion, and like the
Right.
only job she could get was like an extended internship writing about something like really heavy that was not something
Right.
she wanted. So I think it's like, yeah, if there's like an opportunity in front of you and the Free Press is saying we want to hire you, I think
Sure.
a lot of kids would take that.
Absolutely. I think that
Okay, go ahead, Kyle.
no, I was just like, I think that given the economy and the state of things, like, I don't think that is weird or surprising at all. And I think in a lot of ways, it touches back to a quote unquote old. I mean, look, hey, just to simplify things, like, these could all be people who are like, I'm Republican, this is great, I love this, our values are aligned, this is great.
Mm-hmm.
However, like, I find that a bit hard to believe. I could be really naive in saying that. But all this to say is that I think that it may create, inadvertently, because jobs are slim, and I do think this is true, is people are taking jobs that aren't value aligned. And I think that moment, which is a very millennial moment, is over. And I think that sort of is like bringing us back to where jobs were in a lot of ways, where it's like, I work for Lockheed Martin, but like, I am an anti-war activist. I'm making that up. That's a really extreme example, but like, I think things like that are maybe becoming more common because like you don't have the pick of the litter, and like bosses now rule again.
We've
totally.
We've read the crying of Lot 30 or 49.
Yeah,
you know
exactly.
No, I'm just joking. That was a deep military-industrial complex joke. Okay, Kyle, that's interesting though. The alignment of purpose and market opportunity as being a millennial, like a condition of maybe ZERP era of millennial employment, and it gets a little bit to the explanation from this Business Insider story about why millennials feel hopeless about the economy despite being richer than their boomer parents and loving to complain about it anyway. It's because you're educated in a paradigm where you can proverbially have it all, and then suddenly the reality of the market comes crashing down. Is that your sense of it as our resident millennial?
I mean, that's always very interesting. I think in a lot of ways it's very true. I think it is representative of a specific type of millennial, and I think this is the same millennial that 15 years ago was getting like hate pieces written about them in Time. Because like, I do think like they're talking about a specific like corporate employee who now has been there for probably 10 years or 15 years, or jumping from corporation to corporation since the dot-com bubble, and has accrued a lot of money. That being said, inflation, et cetera, money has become less valuable on top of that. And like, they might not have a house. They don't feel that it's an equivalency, which I do think is true. And I think that is that sort of feeling, is that like the money has stayed the same, but the world has not. And I think that's where the critique and the complaint is coming from. Like, I do think that they're right in a lot of ways, but I also think a lot of the people who are saying that, shut up, because like you do live by yourself. Like, you aren't wondering about your paychecks and like, how am I going to pay these bills and things like that, because a lot of millennials do. There's a lot of millennials who still live at home, and like, who still this and that, who never got the career. So like, that's a very like, I think it's a good story, but I also think they're probably talking directly and specifically about a New York, LA, coastal, whatever type of person who's complaining about that still, when they should probably like touch grass and maybe talk to the person in middle America who like has been fucked over for 20 years. Like, they would have a very different take.
Did anybody read there was a story, I'm trying to think where I found it yesterday, but there's a story about this it was in do you guys know Raqqa? It's either Raqqa or Roca News, ROCA News.
I've heard of it, but I don't
think so.
I haven't read it.
Young guy, 3 young guys, they're probably in their late 20s now, let's call it 26, 27, 28, something like that. But they wrote a story yesterday about a place in Arkansas, in the Arkansas Delta, that is famous for its coon dinner. That's short for raccoon, and it's literally like a Depression era tradition where they barbecue a raccoon every year. And this is
my God.
Yeah. So this is like the thing that draws people to this town.
Wow.
Now, it's a pretty depressing story, not because of that tradition at all, actually, but because of the farmers that it talks to and the way that they've described the pressures on the American small farm in particular over the last 80 years. The thing that I wanted to ask though was, Cami, Kyle's probably not wrong that Business Insider piece is written to, coastal elites and people in big cities and stuff. Do you get much congress with people outside of major markets through Feed Me, or just in your general sort of media practices?
Yeah, I think so. I mean, first of all, like most of my college friends don't work in media and are very offline. And like, yes, most of them are here in New York City, but like, it's a different kind of New Yorker. It's like the type of New Yorker who goes to work, sees their friends, who most of them like they've met from college and on the weekends, and then goes back to work and like isn't like reading Roca News on Substack like us.
Right. Yeah, fair enough.
Right.
So yeah, there's that. And then, but I think the bubble that you're talking about, like that actually was something I was thinking about with regard to the teen social ban thing that you guys sent about the Australia teen social ban.
Yeah.
Because I feel like living here in New York, like I'm so sort of underexposed to how antisocial people are in other parts of the world. Like here, if I see kids, like anytime I see kids here in the city, they're always like with their friends or like with a big group of each other, and like they're not necessarily on their phones. And like maybe it's because they're seeing their parents, their New Yorker parents, out all the time, every single night. But like I grew up in DC, and like most people's parents didn't really have a social life. Like we wouldn't see our parents having a social life, and kids were very online from a very young age. Whereas like I talked to like my boyfriend is a New Yorker, and like he like was very offline throughout his whole childhood. And I don't know if that, I guess like there's this stereotype that like New Yorkers are supposed to be like more advanced than other people, but like in reality, I think it was like he was like, no, I was hanging out with my friends in Central Park, and like I was like hanging out at this like diner, and like I was like going to like some skate park in God knows where, like because we're in like this walkable city that has so much to do, and like it's like, like I don't know.
Are you're dating a skateboarder? Is that what we're hearing here?
No, I'm not.
Because as someone who grew up skateboarding, you'd get bonus points. But that's
no. My little brother is a he is a skater. It's his birthday today, and he's at like a skate park in Brooklyn right now.
Oh, nice!
I don't know where.
Happy birthday! Happy birthday! That's cool. Yeah. I mean, I hope, as a parent of kids in New York, and as somebody who is both married to an event producer and who is very active socially myself, I hope that we're setting the right precedent for our kids and just kids generally speaking. But I think you're right. It is very New York, and that's kind of what I wonder when I ask the question about to what extent you communicate with people outside of the coast or the bubble or whatever you want to call it. Is are there kids, euphemistically speaking, writing in to you or to Feed Me or to your friends or whatever, and saying like, oh my God, I can't believe the life you seem to lead. It seems so amazing because here I am in, Lincoln, Nebraska, about to, get my degree as a Cornhusker, but I don't know if I'll ever have that. I just wonder whether to what extent you're receiving that.
I mean, if you look through the comment section, like a lot of people, especially, and this is mainly like a lot of older people who have like maybe once lived in the city but now have left, like they'll comment something like, I love reading this because it makes me feel like I'm this young person in the city, and I practically feel it, and I feel like I'm there because of the way that you guys are storytelling about the city. So like, yeah, there are a lot of people who, I would say it's a lot of people who have left the city, and they're like, this is now my my slice of life of New York.
Right.
Yeah.
I mean, the pull of nostalgia is so powerful for everybody, I think, but especially in the last few years, like in this sort of post-historical moment where every post 20 probably 10, like everything that has ever happened is documented in some meaningful way, and so there's an inevitable draw to nostalgia because some of it's available, and then the stuff that's not is even more rare. Cami, we're coming up on the end of the conversation, but I did want to ask about one other thing because I'm really interested. I think one of the things that I like about Feed Me and your role as the nightlife correspondent, and just generally speaking, is that it does a good job of walking the line between what is party and what is business, what is, in other words, like culture and what is capitalism, what is youth and what is, I don't know what, like evergreen vitality. And the series that sums a lot of that up for me, partially because I went to school with a lot of finance bros, is Industry. And I was curious, you sent in the story from the New Yorker about Conrad and Mickey, the creators of Industry, and I wondered what it was about that story that you wanted to dive into.
Oh, I love that story. I mean, I really like the show. I'm really excited for season 4.
Yeah, me too.
I think the part that I didn't realize about Industry was how unpopular it was, like the first season. And so I think I was interested in like the persistence of Conrad and Mickey after their first season. They said that it like got less viewers than a Barcelona home game or something like that. Like I don't know why that. And Kyle, you live in Barcelona, right? It was like and I could be wrong. It was for some reason they compared the amount of viewers that they got to a football stadium.
Okay.
I don't really understand it. But anyway, like I think like in our particular attention economy, if something doesn't immediately blow up or immediately like perform really well online or immediately sort of massage your dopamine receptors like right after you put it out into the world, it's really hard to like stay focused and keep doing it. Like I could imagine myself if I were to create a project that were to go out into the digital world, which is what Industry did because it's a streamer, and it didn't perform that well after the first season, I would be like, fuck this. Like, yeah. So that was one thing about it. But then also I just love the show, and I think it's a really accurate, it's obviously a little bit like it's exaggerated, but like I think it really does
a few turns in season 3 that might have been slightly
but it captures the spirit of what those people are like, and
Kyle, like as I was saying to Cami, like I went to school with a lot of guys who then went, and for whatever reason I mainly associate them with men, although there were plenty of women too, but who went to go work on Wall Street and became analysts and worked 90-hour weeks and did all of the stuff that's depicted in the first couple of seasons. And then a few of them escaped and married, not exactly royalty, but went on to have generational wealth through some means or another, and are now swanning around the globe, doing things. That's from the point of view of 30 years distance, almost 30 years distance from the time that we were all first years. Cami's distance to it is a year, 2 years at most. In that middle distance, how do you look at it? Do you look at it and go, this is a absolutely disgusting indictment of, or is it an indictment of disgusting wealth, or do you look at it and go, oh, that's kind of aspirational, or do you look at it and go, this is just supreme fantasy and
interesting? Hey, I'm only halfway through the first season. I just started watching probably a month and a half ago. I'm loving it. I'm really enjoying it. Anyway, either way, like I know what you're talking about. It's interesting you say that because, as I'm sure, unless things have changed, I don't think they have. Not to bring it back to Georgetown again, but like Georgetown has that pipeline as well, and that's sort of getting to that idea of like a lot of people go to New York because there's a huge component of like the Wall Street bro. There are like people who are like dyed in the wool as children, and they go there and they want to do them. That's all you hear about. So like to me, what you said, Ben, and like I didn't read the story, but like even seeing that like headline and like and the idea of the story, and I could be wrong, and please correct me if I am, is like it did sort of play into that idea in the sense of like that is a type who not necessarily is always banking, but there is a type who has worked in a really lucrative career, something somewhere, some whatever, and then like, I don't know how I did it. I have a show. And like, you know what I mean? Or I have a book and it's a bestseller. I don't know how I did it. And it's always like one of those like, hold on, wait, zoom out. Like you were in New York for like 10 years. You met people across whatever. You had the money, whatever. Like, look, not saying that people, but like every time those stories come out, I'm always like, huh, cool. Wait, hold on. Show me the receipts. Because it's a part of that sort of like fantasy around the show is that it's like, you know, and to that point, Cami, is like I would be intrigued if it was a different set of circumstances, like, and a different set of people, where they would be like, this show flopped, bye, and like you got to sell this to Netflix or whatever. Versus, you know, and I have no idea what these people's background or circumstances are, but like those are business connections too. And like the business connection to be able to be like, stick with me until season 2 or 3 or whatever, for a nobody to do is a huge like that is a huge thing that like it's hard to happen for people who've been in the Hollywood industry for a long time. And working in that industry, like I know that's really hard to fucking like sell something that like flops to a next season. Like that's almost impossible. So like not to say that didn't happen, but like that was sort of like where my head goes. Is like, you did talk to everybody at those parties. You did make good friends. You did everything right. Good for you. Congratulations. Now you get to have the fictionalized version of it too.
Yeah, I think the other big part of why HBO was willing to continue it is because it was a kind of low budget show compared to the other.
Yeah,
it was, I think, the second least popular show on HBO, but it was also so low budget compared to like a Succession.
Yeah, House of Dragons.
That they were willing to
apples and oranges.
Yeah. Let them experiment with it, and then they let them experiment with it, and then the season 2 experiment really paid off because that season was like epic.
Oh, I can't wait.
Huh. That's interesting. I've been watching it in sequence from episode 1, and so have not gone back and looked at any of the discourse around ratings or costs or any of those sorts of things. So as far as I'm concerned, it's always been a hit. It's always been a relevant show.
Yeah,
that was kind of fascinating.
The first time I watched it.
Was to understand that. I love what you said, Cami, about the idea of you know, things needing to massage your dopamine receptors in the modern paradigm, and I think this is, you know, one of the things that this show talks a lot. Our show, Hip Replacement, talks a lot about is the notion of weighing that near-term reward to the idea of needing to build long-term value, but it's true, as you point out, in every social interaction, which is so interesting. It's like, is it like it's an Instagram story, or it's a thing that I publish, or it's a report that I turn in at work, or it's a dinner that I successfully or don't successfully manage with a potential love interest, or with a family member, or whomever it is. Like they are all judged on, do I get a little buzz from them now? And which is insane, because you know, it shouldn't be the way that we measure, but I think you're right that it kind of is.
Yeah, I think it's probably turned a lot of people who didn't have ADHD into people who have ADHD. Because it's like, and I mean, as someone who has ADHD, like this is like, it's like, I guess it is also easier to like gamify your like day-to-day work process, like more so than it was before, but it's also harder than ever to like get shit done and feel good about it in a lasting way.
Right.
Yeah. No, that is certainly true, and it's a pithy way or it's a pithy observation. All right. Well, I think maybe we've reached the end of the episode. But Cami, it's such a pleasure to meet you and to have you here on your first podcast ever. One of what will be thousands, I'm sure.
2026 will be a big podcast year for you. I know it.
I think we can wager that. We can put that on Polymarket and have it big at the end of 2026.
Yeah, let's do it.
Please do.
Well, so Cami, aside from your column is on Wednesday, every Wednesday, or just happens to be this Wednesday?
No, it just happens to be. I think That's the idea for this week.
Okay, got it.
So you should expect to see it on Wednesday.
All right, so
Okay.
we look for your columns in Feed Me, which is readfeedme.com, and then any other places that the kids can find you that you want to direct them to.
For now, just there.
Okay.
All right.
Sweet. We like it. All right. Well, you can find Kyle at the Trend Report on Substack. His excellent 3 or 4 times a week, cultural analysis.
Sounds like a lot.
That is deeper and more valuable than almost anything else out there. That's at 1234 Kyle 5678.substack.com. But you look it up. It's a Trend Report. I am at sic.substack.com, and we are here every Tuesday, thanks to the efforts of series producer Campbell and others, as well as all of our great guests at Hip Replacement. So please come back and see us next week. Cami, Fateh, thank you again. And look forward to seeing you out
Thanks for joining
at
us.
3 things every night in New York.
Thank you, guys. I appreciate it.
You bet.
Thanks. This was fun. All right. Bye.
Bye.